Sorry I haven't made a video in a bit. Just, stuff came up. Also, my team lost in the Super Bowl, so I was kind of mourning that for a few days. This one particularly hurt, but, that's the life of being a sports fan. As a great philosopher once said, you have to be a fucking moron to be a sports fan. And unfortunately, I chose that path. So I apologize for that, but we're back. I have been paying attention to the games, still watching the games. We are in All-Star break, which is not the midway point, contrary to popular belief. We're about 55-ish games into the regular season now. This will be the home stretch after, the All-Star break is over. So I wanted to do some quick grading of sorts and go through every team relative to their expectations, of course, because there's obviously teams that were hoping to contend for a title this year, teams that were thinking they could make the playoffs, but turns out they haven't. So this is obviously graded on a curve, and if you disagree, leave a comment below, be respectful, all that good stuff. We're going to go through every team in the Eastern Conference from bottom up. I'll give a quick explanation on each grade just for video's sake. Try to keep it under 30 seconds or so. So let's start with the 15th seed in the Eastern Conference, coming in at 8-46. Jesus. On the year, the Detroit Pistons. And I have been quite frustrated with the Pistons. Before the season, I had them as a play-in squabble team, meaning they're going to be one of the teams fighting for the 9th or the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference, which is what you need to qualify for the play-in. And the Pistons have been worse than that. More importantly, the 8-46 record, that's just so bad for the talent that they have. They have young talent. I expected them to be, just a normal bad team, but that 27-game losing streak, Monty Williams forgetting that Jaden Ivey is actually a good lotto pick that they should probably develop. Also forgetting from time to time that Asar Thompson should be closing some games. And then realizing that, hey, maybe playing Caden Ivey in the back. All this shit is just... The stuff by Monty Williams this year has been malpractice. As much as I don't want to be mean to the Pistons, I'm giving the Pistons an F so far for the season. I was going to give them a D- just for how they've been playing better the last month, but that's relative. I just think on the whole, the coaching, all that stuff, just a bad all-around year for the Pistons. I'm giving them an F. The Washington Wizards, this was a year where they were expected to tank. Wish the basketball was a little bit better, but you can take some solace in Koulibaly showing flashes. Denny Avdia has been playing really well the last few weeks. They offloaded some players to get some assets, trading Daniel Gafford for a Mavs first rounder. That's what a lottery team should be doing. Weren't able to get off Kuzma, but what can you do? I'm going to give the Washington Wizards a D+ for the season. I know they're one game better than the Pistons right now, but this was a team that was expected to tank. Jordan Poole has been an abject disaster, so I might downgrade it to a D just because we expected Jordan Poole to average 27 at least on a bad team, but he's been objectively one of the worst players in the NBA. So I'm giving the Wizards a D. The Charlotte Hornets were another team that I had in the play-in hopefuls tier along with the Pistons, and unfortunately an injury to LaMelo sort of derailed, what was a pretty, I would say, even start to the season. And then obviously injuries and all that took its toll, trading away Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward also. But I'm going to give the Charlotte Hornets a D-. And part of that is because they have clarity on Brandon Miller now, who is going to be a star. It is good that their second overall pick is shining, and quite frankly, they have their backcourt of the future with LaMelo and Brandon Miller. Trading away Terry Rozier rips the Band-Aid off, and they could just start Miller and LaMelo together, and their backcourt is set. Now we'll see what the Hornets will do down the road. They are obviously not going to make the play-in. They're 13-41. So another lottery pick is coming. So we'll see who they pick. Mark Williams has sort of taken a step back defensively, but I'm still high on him as the Hornets' big of the future as well. So they have their three guys in place. Based on the season and the expectations, I would give them a D- to a D. Toronto Raptors, I'm more inclined to give them a D+ or a C-, probably D+. Scotty Barnes has taken the leap. the trade of OG Anunoby and getting in Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. Those two guys have been playing well for the Raptors. They are exploring themselves on a team that is 19-36, and the offense is no longer, a clogged toilet. They are now just a run-of-the-mill bad team that will be competitive on some nights, have a lot of young talent. Still don't quite understand the Jakob Poeltl trade or trading for Kelly Olynyk, but it's whatever. As long as they have their star in place and young pieces like Barrett and Quickley, they'll be fine down the road. But as far as this season goes, I have them right around the D+ range. They're kind of a team that I had in the play-in hopefuls tier as well. Didn't expect them to make the play-in. So they're right around there. There could be a few things that are better, so I'm giving them a D+. And then the Brooklyn Nets. It's funny that these 5 teams that I have mentioned so far, I've had them all before the season started on the outside looking in when it comes to the play-in, because this was another team I had in the play-in hopefuls tier. I had them on the higher end of the play-ins tier, which means I had them as the 11th seed going into the season. They're the 11th seed right now. They're just a run-of-the-mill treadmill team. Ben Simmons keeps getting hurt in and out. He's been back the last few games. Mikal Bridges is learning the hard life of being the number 1 on an NBA team. They have a lot of players that I like, but they don't have enough firepower. They don't have enough firepower defensively either, even though they play hard. Cam Thomas will go nuclear every once in a while. As far as expectations, they're right around in the C- D+ range. I really didn't expect him to make the play-in like the Raptors or the Hornets or the Pistons. Wizards I had in the lotto tier for those wondering. But as far as where I expected them to be, what I want them to do, I would give them a D+, C-. I thought they should have been major sellers at the deadline, but they weren't. They did trade Royce O'Neal for a lot of seconds, which is nice, but this team is just going to be on the treadmill, hoping for Donovan Mitchell maybe, even though I don't think that's going to happen. But we'll see. This Nets team is just a run-of-the-mill bad NBA team. Didn't expect them to go anywhere, so I guess based off that, I have to give them a D+. Next up, we have the Atlanta Hawks, and I'm going to give the Atlanta Hawks... they've been playing a little bit better recently, 6-4 in their last 10, even though they're coming off of 2 straight losses. And it was clear that they had buyer's remorse on the DeJounte Murray trade because they were shopping him all year basically up until the trade deadline. And turns out they couldn't get anything of value for him or what they deemed as proper value, so they decided to keep him. I'm giving the Hawks a D just because of the expectations I had for this team. I had them as the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference going into the year. I had them firmly atop the play-in squabble tier with, the Bulls, Magic, and Pacers, which is kind of, the Pacers are the 6th seed. But regardless, the Hawks being 24-31 with the year Trae Young is having and the year Jalen Johnson is having, and still only being 24-31, that's just not good, no matter how you slice it. They have a lot of alleged 3-and-D wings that either don't shoot as well or play the defense. Good to see Onyeka Okongwu starting the last 5 games. He's been averaging 16 and 8 basically. The Hawks do have some young talent, but it just hasn't coalesced, and it's kind of disappointing. But Trae Young is having an awesome year. He's been miles better defensively than what he has shown earlier in his career. And that's still not saying much. I still think he's a negative defender, but he's not the I'm not going to bother trying guy anymore. And he's actually making rotations, being solid off ball. I guess that's the one bright spot for the Hawks, but as a whole, I'm giving them a D. And I'm making an editorial decision. I'm going to make this a part 1. So the last team I'm going to talk about is the 9th seed in the Eastern Conference, your Chicago Bulls, who I kind of already ripped in the trade deadline winners and losers video that I did, the last video I uploaded. I just don't know why the Bulls are insisting on going with this path to mediocrity. And I want to grade them properly, but my expectations for them going into the year, I had them around as an 8th seed. I had them in the play-in squabble tier right behind the Atlanta Hawks, who were at the top of that particular tier. But when I watch them, I'm just like, can they blow this shit up already and just let the young guys roam free? And they have been doing that for the most part. Levine's injury has kind of accelerated that. But Kobe White, Patrick Williams, like, I just want to see what those guys look like with the full year instead of, you know, trying to do this thing where they could have just sold everything at the trade deadline, got major assets. They would have been set with nice young players, and they just didn't do that. Their fans have been clamoring for it. Their team has actually been playing better recently, but they're still 26 and 29, and fans still are disappointed that they didn't blow it up at the trade deadline. And now they're probably going to be introduced to more failure, most likely once the playoffs hit, if they even stay in the play-in. Well, it looks like they're going to stay in the play-in. There's no way the Brooklyn Nets are catching the Hawks or the Bulls, in my opinion. But this team should have blown it up a long time ago, reaped the assets, trading Drummond, DeRozan, Caruso. Now it just looks like they aren't. They didn't trade Zach LaVine, obviously, because he had season-ending foot surgery. You know, I'm going to give the Bulls a D, because what they are doing is the definition of insanity, but they are still in the play-in, which is what I expected going into the year, even though I think they should have blown this team up a long time ago and sold off at the trade deadline 2 weeks ago, but they didn't. I guess if you're just talking about their goals and wanting to be competitive, even though I think that's fucking delusional, I guess they're on track technically because they're still in the play-in, so that's why I give them a D. I just want to be a full hater and give them an F- because just path-wise, I think they are going down a path that's just going to lead to mediocrity. But if it's what the Bulls want, and I expected them to be in the play-in squabble tier before the season started, I have to give them a D. So mission accomplished, I guess. Anyway, that's part one. I figured I was going to go long explaining each team, so I kind of knew in the back of my head. So I'm doing a part 2 on the Eastern Conference. Stay tuned for that video. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you are so inclined, and we will see you in part 2.